other countries doing. If they're going to do it, we're going to do it.
President Donald Trump has just announced that the United States will resume testing nuclear weapons. On his social media platform, Trump stated, "Because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis." Now, this statement might sound like a routine political rhetoric, but in reality, it signals something far more serious. If carried out, this would mark the first American nuclear test in more than 30 years. The last time the US tested a nuclear weapon was in 1992, deep underground in Nevada. Since then, successive administrations have maintained a moratorium on nuclear testing. The pause was not just symbolic, it was the foundation of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, or the CTBT, a global effort to permanently halt nuclear explosions. Although the US signed the CTBT in 1996, it never formally ratified it. Still, by observing the moratorium, Washington upheld an unspoken commitment, a promise to the world that the era of nuclear testing was over. So, Trump's declaration represents more than just a technical decision. It is a potential breach in one of the last surviving barriers preventing a renewed global arms race. To put this in perspective, during the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union conducted hundreds of tests, often with catastrophic environmental and human consequences. That cycle only began to slow when in 1991, the Soviet Union announced a unilateral halt to testing, while prompting President George H.W. Bush to follow suit. The mutual restraint helped reduce tensions and paved the way for arms control negotiations. But today, experts warned that the total number of warheads worldwide had begun to rise again for the first time since the Cold War ended. Meanwhile, reopening US testing would not happen overnight. Analysts estimate it could take as long as 36 months just to make Nevada test site operational again. But even the mere announcement could change the global equation, because it legitimizes the idea that nuclear testing is once again acceptable. And once that door is open, others will walk through it. Take India for instance. India's last major nuclear test, known as Operation Shakti, took place in 1998. The Indian government claimed it successfully detonated a thermonuclear device, but many international experts questioned those results. Some of the Indian scientists involved later acknowledged that the yield was lower than expected, suggesting the test may not have achieved a full fusion reaction. If Washington resumes testing, New Delhi might feel emboldened to revisit its own program, perhaps to refine or verify the designs of its thermonuclear weapons. India's Defense Research and Development Organization, or the DRDO, has already indicated it could restart testing at a short notice. And if India moves in that direction, it would likely push Pakistan to respond in kind. That chain reaction could destabilize the already fragile deterrence balance in South Asia. In short, a US return to nuclear testing could trigger a domino effect, undermining decades of global non-proliferation efforts. Moreover, resuming tests would contradict the US long-standing commitment to the non-testing, weakening its credibility as a leader in arms control diplomacy. It would also make it harder to persuade countries like North Korea or Iran to restrain their own programs. Now, some might argue that testing is necessary to ensure the reliability of aging warheads, a claim periodically made by defense officials. But modern simulation and subcritical experiments already allow the US to maintain confidence in its arsenal without breaking the test moratorium. So, the shift appears less about technical necessity and more about political signaling. But that projection comes at a cost. Once norms are broken, they rarely return intact. Ultimately, the prudent course for the United States would be to uphold its moratorium and finally ratify the CTBT, joining its NATO allies and reinforcing global standards against nuclear testing. Because once one nation resumes testing, others will follow, and the world could find itself sliding back into a nuclear competition we thought we had left behind 3 decades ago.